Evil walks quietly among us. It hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. But sometimes, evil leaves a trail so dark that the world cannot look away. This is the story of Wade Wilson, a man whose choices turned ordinary lives into nightmares. Evil has always fascinated and terrified humanity. It is the shadow we do not want to face, the whisper in the dark that reminds us of our fragility. For most people, evil feels distant, something read in books or seen in films. But for the city of Fort Myers, Florida, in 2019, evil became all too real. The fall of that year would bring fear, heartbreak, and violence that shook the community to its core. 2 women would lose their lives, families would be left devastated, and a father would be forced to make the most painful decision imaginable, turning in his own son. But this is not only a story of cruelty, it is also a story of resilience, bravery, and justice. In the darkness, ordinary people showed extraordinary strength. Their actions became the key to stopping Wade Wilson's reign of terror. Sometimes, survival is not about winning a fight. It's about refusing to give up. Melissa Mons thought she knew Wade Wilson. She had been dating him for 6 months. He was charming in moments, unpredictable in others, and carried a long history of violence and drug use. Their relationship was unstable, but Melissa still hoped he could change. On October 6, 2019, the two went to a local bar. The night was warm, the music loud. To onlookers, it looked like a typical couple out for drinks. But tension was bubbling beneath the surface. Inside the bar, Wade grew restless. He wanted to leave and go somewhere else. Melissa refused. Voices rose. The argument became heated. Frustrated, Wade claimed he needed something from Melissa's sleek gray Dodge Hellcat outside. Melissa watched in disbelief as he slipped into the driver's seat and drove away, leaving her stranded. Anger and confusion clashed in her mind. The car was gone. So was Wade. Not wanting to return home, Melissa called her friend Amy. Amy picked her up and offered a safe place to spend the night. Exhausted, Melissa fell asleep. She could not know that the nightmare was only hours away. By morning, her phone was filled with missed calls from unfamiliar numbers. When she finally answered, it was Wade. His voice was sharp and demanding. He wanted to see her immediately. Fear crept in. Melissa knew Wade's history of violence, but to keep things safe, she agreed to meet him in public at her workplace. She asked Amy to come with her for protection. When Wade pulled up, Melissa didn't recognize the car. It wasn't her Hellcat. It was a black Nissan Versa. Suspicion grew. Wade called for her to get inside. Melissa refused. His tone shifted from calm to aggressive. He lunged, grabbing at her clothes, her hair, trying to pull her into the car. She stiffened, her body plank-like, to resist. Her dress ripped as she fought back. The struggle spilled onto the ground. Wade tackled her, his weight crushing her small frame. He slapped, punched, and choked her as bystanders watched, stunned. Melissa clung to a railing, praying someone would call 911. By sheer will, she broke free and ran to a nearby business. Police arrived quickly, shaking and bruised. Melissa told them Wade Wilson had attacked her and fled in a black Nissan Versa. She told officers the truth she felt in her bones. If Wade had forced her into that car, she would not be alive to tell her story. Sometimes the most ordinary evening can end in unthinkable tragedy. While Melissa fought for her life, another woman's story was unfolding across town. Her name was Christine Melton. Christine was 35 years old, known as warm, protective, and fiercely loyal. She worked as a waitress and was described by loved ones as unforgettable, a once-in-a-lifetime person. That night, Christine met Wade Wilson. They left together, and she invited him to her home. After some time, Christine fell asleep. For most people, sleep is safety, but in her home, it became the moment of her death. Wade later told his father that he climbed on top of Christine and strangled her until she was gone. Cold, deliberate, merciless. Afterward, he stayed in her home. He thought about hiding her body, even considered placing it in her car's trunk. But rigor mortis had already set in. She was too stiff to move. So he left her where she lay, stole her black Nissan Versa, and vanished into the night. Christine's neighbors would soon see crime scene tape marking her home. A normal walk to work should never be a death sentence. On the morning of October 7th, another life was about to be taken. Diane Ruiz, 43 years old, left for work. She never arrived. Diane was a mother of two, beloved by family and friends. That day she carried her purse and walked as usual. Hours later, her purse was found discarded on the side of the road. Wade admitted to his father what had happened. Driving Christine's stolen car, he saw Diane walking. He stopped and asked for directions. Trusting, she climbed inside. As he drove, Wade reached over and strangled her. Searching for a place to dump her body, he pulled off the road. When he dragged Diane out, he realized she was still breathing. With chilling cruelty, Wade got back in the car, started the engine, and ran her over until she was motionless. Later, her body was found in a field behind a Sam's Club. Her disappearance had become a nightmare reality. Even when cornered, some criminals will do anything to stay free. Police began hunting Wade Wilson. That same day, officers spotted him sitting in Christine's stolen Nissan Versa outside a Joe's Crab Shack. An officer approached. Wade acted calm, claiming he was waiting for his girlfriend. The officer explained he would detain him briefly. Wade nodded, pretending to cooperate. But as soon as the officer asked for the car keys, Wade jumped inside, started the engine, and sped away. Silently, but he escaped. Later, he appeared at a business on Hancock Bridge Parkway. He begged an acquaintance named Josh for money to buy a bus ticket. When Josh refused, Wade blurted the truth. "I killed people last night." Shocked, Josh called 911, but Wade had already slipped away again. Sometimes the only person a killer will tell the truth to is family. That evening, Wade phoned his biological father, Stephen Testa. Their relationship had always been strained. Stephen had not raised him, but reconnected when Wade turned 18. Wade told him bluntly, "Two people are gone. I'm a killer." At first, Stephen doubted him. Wade had a history of lying, of telling wild stories, but more calls came. Wade described in detail how he strangled Christine in her sleep, stayed in her home, and stole her car. He described Diane, how he asked her for directions, strangled her, and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti. Stephen listened in horror, his wife hearing everything on speakerphone. He realized it was all true. At first, he thought about protecting his son, but then he thought of his community, of other mothers, sisters, daughters. If Wade had done this twice, he would do it again. Stephen made the hardest choice of his life. He asked for Wade's location, pretending he would send food. Instead, he called the police. The longer a fugitive runs, the more dangerous he becomes. With the address in hand, U.S. Marshals and a fugitive task force surrounded a Cape Coral home. The couple living there had just left town. Wade had broken in and was hiding inside. Officers shouted for him to come out. For 30 tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, at last, Wade opened the front door. He raised his hands and surrendered. There was no gunfire, no chase, just a quiet end to days of violence. Wade Wilson was taken into custody. Sometimes a jail cell is not the end of a story, but the beginning of a long and unsettling wait. In jail, Wade awaited trial, but the process dragged on. Hearings were delayed again and again. Families endured years of waiting. Wade changed his appearance, tattooing his face with disturbing symbols, including Nazi imagery. His lawyers worried a jury would see him as irredeemable. They asked to cover the tattoos with makeup. The judge allowed it. But when trial came, the defense chose not to hide them. Wade would face justice as he was. After years of waiting, 12 strangers would decide if justice would be done. On June 10, 2024, the trial began. Families filled the courtroom. Reporters watched closely. Prosecutors laid out their case. Melissa's assault, Christine's murder, Diane's murder. Witnesses testified. Even Wade's father took the stand, repeating the confessions his son had given. The defense admitted much of it, but argued Wade was whacked out of his mind. They claimed drugs clouded his responsibility. It was less about innocence, more about mercy. In the search for justice, courage often comes from the most unexpected places. Melissa Mons testified, reliving the horror of Wade's attack. Her words painted a vivid picture of survival and fear. Stephen Testa followed, describing the chilling phone calls. A father testifying against his own son. His voice cracked, but his resolve held. Sometimes 12 voices speak louder than one. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. They found Wade Wilson guilty on all counts: 2 murders, grand theft, and battery. Justice had spoken. Tears filled the courtroom. Families wept quietly. It was not relief. Nothing could bring Christine and Diane back, but it was justice. Justice does not end with a verdict. Sometimes it asks an even harder question: life or death. On June 20th, 2024, the penalty phase began. Prosecutors pressed for death. Defense attorneys begged for life. The jury weighed aggravating factors to murders, cruelty, lack of remorse. Against this, they searched for reasons for mercy. The decision carried the heaviest consequences. Wade's fate lay once again in the hands of 12 strangers. In the darkest stories, it is the light of ordinary people that shines the brightest. This case is about evil, yes, but also about courage. Courage from Melissa, who fought for her life and testified to ensure justice. Courage from Stephen Testa, who made the heartbreaking decision to turn in his own son to protect others. Courage from officers and detectives who worked tirelessly to track Wade down. And courage from the families of Christine and Diane, who endured years of waiting and carried themselves with quiet dignity. Evil leaves scars, but justice leaves lessons. The story of Wade Wilson is not just about violence. It is about resilience, about communities that refuse to surrender to fear. Evil will always exist, but so will courage, truth, and justice. And in the end, those are the forces that endure.